House of EdTech, Episode 32.
Hi, this is Sharon Plant. You are listening to Chris Nessie at the House of EdTech.
This episode of House of EdTech is brought to you by Today'sMeet.com. Welcome to the House of EdTech podcast. My name is Christopher Nessie, and this is the podcast that explores how technology is changing the way teachers teach and the impact that technology is having in education. My objectives include discussing technology that is changing our classrooms and schools, and sharing information you can hear about today and use tomorrow. I talk to teachers, leaders, and creators like you, and have them share their stories. The purpose being, whether you use it or not, technology is changing the way we teach and how our students learn. And welcome back inside the House of EdTech, everybody. I'm so glad you stopped in. We have a very special episode today. In this episode, I do have an EdTech thought. I have the usual House of EdTech VIP, and in lieu of doing a one-shot House of EdTech recommendation, I present to you the 2015 EdTech Final Four. Now, last year at this time, as you know, I did the 2014 EdTech Final Four, and it is the month of March again here in 2015, and madness is in the air. Your NCAA brackets may have exploded by now, if you're listening to this podcast. If it hasn't, best of luck to you in the rest of the tournament and with your bracket and any pools you may be engaged in. I know one of my brackets is not as good as I'd like it to be. So I do have 4 awesome recommendations for the EdTech Final Four. Before I get to that great content and those awesome recommendations, just a couple of things to share with you very quickly here at the front end of the episode. First, and I'm really not sure how I feel about this 100%, but I am going to throw it out there. I came across a podcast recently that is calling itself the Rant podcast, which you can find over at edchatrant.tumblr.com. Now, I have mixed emotions about this because I came across the podcast and I was like, oh, this seems interesting. And I listened to it, and the gentleman doing the podcast never said who he was. And I found that to be odd that he would do this podcast anonymously. And I'll be honest with you, it really annoyed and aggravated me to the point where I had to reach out to the Twitter handle and basically say, what are you doing? Put your name to it. I really don't hold any value in what you're saying if you're just going to, talk about all the negative things that are going on and, pick on it. And I didn't think that was fair. So I basically called this guy out, and he gave me a shout out in a recent episode. I think he's releasing daily, but I can't tell. You could check it out, but it's not something that I 100% endorse, but I just wanted to throw it out there. And maybe you can connect with this person, and you can also encourage them to put a name to their opinion, because I don't know about you, but seriously, if you can't put your name on something, it doesn't hold much water with me. So that's really all I have to say about that. This might be very sad, but it's the end of IE, the end of Internet Explorer. Internet Explorer has passed away. That is my brief moment of silence for Internet Explorer. And now I'm going to share with you something I just came across, and I'll put the link to this in the show notes. The headline is Internet Explorer is dead, and here are 7 honest epitaphs for the IE tombstone. The first one, beloved default web browser to most people in this graveyard. Number 2, will forever be loading, and the hourglass is also engraved on the tombstone. Number 3, a browser that dedicated its life to letting people download other browsers. The next one, automatically installed, voluntarily missed. The next one, will live on in the nightmares of web developers. So sad. This one really touched me. Reunited with Clippy, the little animated paperclip character from Microsoft Office. They're together again. And this last one, this is the best one. It is a picture of a 404 error. The page cannot be displayed. There is a problem with the page you are trying to reach, and it cannot be displayed. Yeah, I'm really not going to miss Internet Explorer. There are so many better browsers out there. I'll probably have to dedicate a whole episode in the future to some awesome browsers that you can use. And also, very quickly, before I get to the EdTech Final Four, make sure you stick around after the Final Four announcements, and make sure you check out this episode's EdTech Thought, which comes to you courtesy of Brent Warner over from edtech.tv, and he's going to be sharing with you 10 reasons every teacher should blog. Let's get to the 2015 EdTech Final Four. First up in the 2015 EdTech Final Four is Microsoft Mix. What is Office Mix? It's a new Office app designed to entice users into a presentation through screencasted video and interactive lessons. Office Mix is an easy way to take your PowerPoint presentations and bring them to life as interactive online lessons. Mix allows you to record audio or video of yourself giving a lecture, to directly writing in the presentation as you would at your whiteboard, to quizzing, to sharing, to seeing how it all worked. Office Mix helps you do it all simply. With Mix, each PowerPoint slide includes an additional tab for supplemental information. These fall into three important categories. Number 1, recording video of yourself making the presentation. Number 2, screencasting, basically how your mouse and finger moves through a scene or application. And number 3, providing tests or quizzes to measure how your audience has done. On the back end, Microsoft's Office Mix supplies a fourth element, analytics, and this will measure how long a given student or colleague spends on a given slide, for example. Each slide contains its own video and instruction so that slides can be reordered as you might expect. Video recordings also work as an element in a given page and can be reoriented as a user chooses. The screencasting feature can be especially useful for you if you want to walk your colleagues or your students through a website, helping them sign up for, say, Schoology, or guiding them on how to use a tool like Today's Meet. With a screencast, your screen becomes recordable, and recording your mouse movements and keystrokes is very simple. Another really cool feature of Mix is that quizzes and interactive apps can be inserted into slides, giving your students a chance to test what they know. As a guide, Office Mix will add exercises and lessons from places like Khan Academy and the CK12 Foundation, providing a jumping-off point for you and your students in this really exciting tool. You can control things like how many attempts a student gets, provide hints, add a timer, randomly change the order of multiple-choice questions, and even provide feedback on the particular answers a student selects. Mixes are designed to live online, so mixes can't really be saved, but they're only shared as links. And they are viewable, and this is really cool, in any browser, desktop, or mobile. At the present time, Mix is a free add-on, and you can learn more information, and you can get it for free from their website, which is mix.office.com. And I'll obviously link to this and the upcoming tools in the show notes for this episode. Next up is Aurasma. If this were a basketball team, then I believe augmented reality would be the Kentucky of EdTech tools that can add something super dynamic to your instruction here in 2015 and beyond. Since launching in 2011, Aurasma has quickly risen to become a leading augmented reality platform with over 80,000 customers operating in over 100 countries. Their vision is to enable an augmented world where every image, object, and place has its own, as they say, aura. Aurasma can change the way you see and interact with the world today. Aurasma allows users to create or view augmented reality experiences. Simply point your device's viewfinder at an object or photo, which they call a trigger, and wait for the aura, an interactive experience that transforms the trigger image into a video, animation, or another image. For Aurasma to work, the triggers must have an attached aura. You could start by browsing a collection of pre-created auras created by Aurasma or by other users who choose to make their auras public. The pre-created auras include triggers such as fast food logos, images of superheroes, pictures of celebrities, and even money, like the dollar bill. To create your own auras, you choose an overlay and a trigger. An overlay is a video image or animation that will appear when somebody finds the trigger object or photo. Aurasma offers a library of overlaps to choose from, but you are also free to create your own, and that's really cool. You can save your auras either as public or private, and choose whether to add them to a specific channel in Aurasma's library and share your auras with others. So, how can you actually use Aurasma in your classroom? Here's an example. Bring your textbooks to life by creating auras to connect to specific photographs, charts, or text boxes that are already printed in the text. For example, in a social studies book, you could add a video overlay of a historian talking about Washington crossing the Delaware to a photograph of the famous painting. You could also use Aurasma to create a scavenger hunt. Have your students find trigger images and use the auras to answer questions. Auras could also be used to guide work in stations, placing a trigger image at each station and overlaying a video with instructions or a description of how to perform a specific task in class. Also, students can get in on the action by spicing up posters, writing assignments, and artwork. Another example, when creating informational posters, students can create auras to show videos of themselves talking more about the topic. With a writing assignment, students can add triggers to connect readers to illustrations. And on artwork, students can use auras to connect viewers to explanations of the piece or stories related to the work. To get started with Aurasma in your classroom, just visit their website at aurasma.com, and that's aurasma.com, and of course, there's a link in the show notes. The number 3 entry into the 2015 EdTech Final Four is a new app called Meerkat. That's Meerkat. Meerkat allows you to stream live video from your phone to all of your Twitter followers at once. You simply go into the app, press stream, and instantly your live video stream shows up in your followers' Twitter feeds. When your followers have the app, they will also get published notifications with your live stream, which they can watch, comment on, and interact with directly inside the application. Here are the rules of Meerkat according to Meerkat. Number 1, everything that happens on Meerkat happens on Twitter. Number 2, streams will be published to followers in real time via push notifications. Number 3, people can only watch it live. There are no reruns. Number 4, you can save your streams to your phone, but Meerkat will never keep them. Number 5, watchers can retweet any stream to their followers in real time. The next one, everyone can watch on the web. And the last, and I think most important, be kind. Don't get silly with this application. This is also a good way to bring it into your students' lives and promote digital citizenship in a positive way. At this point in time, Meerkat requires iOS 8 and higher, which is not that high. It works on iPhone, iPad, and iPod Touch. It's also optimized for iPhone 4 and higher. So check out Meerkat. And our last entry into this year's EdTech Final Four is a really cool tool called Tousle, Tozzl, which can be found at Tousle.com. Link will be in the show notes. And what does Tousle do? It allows you to quickly create private, password-protected, if needed, message boards, as well as public boards. To get started, visit Tousle and select Create New Tousle. Then you can name your message board and set a privacy password. Again, that's optional. And Tousle assigns a new, unique URL to each message board. On your message board, you can add sections for chat, file sharing, to-do lists, and YouTube videos. You can also import the feed of a Twitter hashtag. Very cool, and I suggest you check out Tousle. Once again, that can be found at Tousle.com, Tozzl. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the 2015 EdTech Final Four. All right, time to recap this year's Final Four, the EdTech Final Four. First up, we had Microsoft Mix, which is a fabulous PowerPoint add-on. Then I talked about Aurasma, which will bring augmented reality into your classroom. Meerkat, if you're interested in experimenting with live video and mashing that up against and with Twitter. And Tousle, for creating interesting one-off pages and places to collaborate for you, your students, and your classes. I'd love to know what you think of all these EdTech recommendations, because that's basically what they are. You could send me your feedback to feedback@chrisnessie.com, or you can let me know what you think of these on Twitter. My username is Mr. Nessie, MRNESI, and just use the hashtag House of EdTech. And now let's head over to this episode's House of EdTech thought. And I'd like to bring in Mr. Brent Warner from edtech.tv. You're up, Brent.
Hi, everybody. This is Brent Warner from edtech.tv. As my fellow House of EdTech listeners know, Chris Nessie is on an awesome mission to encourage teachers not just to curate, but also to create. Of course, this is totally in line with my thoughts on the subject as well, and so I was really happy when Chris asked me to cover a blog post that I wrote called 10 Reasons Every Teacher Should Blog. This is not necessarily in order, but I do want to cover all these points, and so let's get right into it. So for me, I think it is really important that all teachers should blog, and I know it's a little harder for some than others, but I really do encourage everybody to give it a shot. And so the 10th reason I think that every teacher should blog is that you get a chance to reflect on your work. You know, a lot of teachers get really busy, and we all know that it's a best practice to, you know, make sure that we're reflecting and, you know, covering our lesson plans after the fact and seeing that we know and understood what we did with our lessons and with our ideas, but we also get lost and busy and we get pulled away, and, you know, some of us have children and some of us have other things in life that we have to do and boards that we have to be on. So when you have a blog, you're kind of setting yourself up to reflect on your own work, and you can use your writing to look back over your ups and downs and figure out ways to improve for your future teaching as well. So I definitely think that reflecting on your work is one of the great points. Number 9 was a library of lesson plans. So when you're posting up what you do onto a blog, instead of just sticking your papers away into a folder and going, that was good, and then forgetting about it, which I'm quite guilty of doing, you have it all online. So you can index everything, and you can go back for yourself and research what worked and what didn't work, and how you did things. I do this with my website a lot. I go back and find things that I was working on and that actually did work out quite well, and I bring it right back into future lessons. So I think that's a really important part of blogging for a lot of teachers. Number 8 is giving back to teachers. So we all know, we've all been there 10, 15 minutes before class, scouring the lessons on the internet, trying to find something. And a lot of times we find really great things from just some random teacher that we don't know who they are, but they're out there posting things for everybody else to see. And so when we do this as teachers ourselves, is we're blogging and we're kind of paying that forward to the next teacher that needs a little bit of help, or, you know, might have just had a bit of a rough time on their certain day. And we always want to make sure that everybody has the best chance to give out their best in class, of course. And sometimes just having your information out there could be really, really useful to another teacher. Number 7 was do as I do, not as I say. I know that a lot of teachers at this point are working on, you know, having their students blog or posting things, you know, it could be a private blog in an LMS or something like that. But the point being, if you're encouraging your students to do this and to write and, you know, put their information out there, I think it's only fair that you do it yourself as well. You know, there's a lot of students that go, well, you're telling me to do all this stuff, but you're not doing it. You're not, you know, whatever your students might say, they kind of give you a little bit of a hard time sometimes. But if you're out there showing them, hey, this is what I'm doing too, and I'm trying to make something better for everybody as well, they'll see that and they'll recognize it and definitely appreciate it. So, you know, it's more effective when you're leading by example. Number 6, make new friends. teachers do have a lot to say, and there's a lot of educational blogs out there. And I see all the time just like people striking up friendships all over the place. And, they can be these virtual friendships and they're awesome. It's just like, hey, this is a person who understands where I'm coming from with my teaching perspective. And, they could be across the country, they could be across the world. And it's a great way to really connect with other people. And a lot of teachers I know kind of started their PLNs and they get, hey, I've got a Twitter account and I'm kind of making friends with people on Twitter. But it's a little nice to have a resource for teachers to see you to go back to. So they're like, oh, okay, well, maybe you're tweeting some interesting ideas or, sharing some good thoughts. But when they go back to a full resource that's your blog and kind of, that's you, and that's really people's opportunity to learn about you, and then you can connect on a deeper level there. Number 5, communicate with parents. Parents nowadays, they want more communication. They want to hear from teachers. They're expecting it a lot of this time. And, it's hard sometimes for teachers to go, okay, I gotta make sure I connect. I gotta call somebody. I gotta do this. And it gets a bit tricky sometimes for teachers to keep up with the parents that they need to be in touch with. But when you have a blog, you don't really have to think about it, because you can just say, hey, if you go to my blog, take a look at it, see what's out there, and, all the information is there. If they have specific questions beyond that, of course they're welcome to talk to you and to contact you, but it's a way that the information is already designated and out there for the teachers and for the parents to see. Next is communicate with students. So in addition, of course, to the teachers, you can also blog just for your students. A lot of people get of the mistaken idea that a blog must be kind of teacher for teacher, right? So I'm writing for the idea of getting my information out to other teachers. But you can set up your blog however you want. That's the beauty of it. You're totally free to run it how you want to run it. And a great way to do it could be just to use it as your class blog. You can put up your information up there. I often, kind of if class runs up and the bell's coming, I go, oh, okay, everybody run out the door. And then I have to remember to get hold of them. So, if you have a blog that's for your classroom blog, then you can put up the information up there, and their responsibility is to check it and make sure that they're keeping up with the class as well. Number 3 is learn. Most teachers do have a big passion for learning. They're all big learners, and that's kind of why we became teachers. And having a blog is just such a great way to learn. I've learned so much by running my own blog and just kind of keeping up with the world and keeping up with, my own personal development and professional development. And there's really no better way, because it kind of keeps you accountable, especially if there's a couple other people looking at it. It doesn't have to be a ton of people, but if you got a couple people looking at it, what a great way to just say, hey, I got to do this thing. I get a chance to learn from it. Other people do too. And, you get to spend some time doing what you really love doing. Number 2, secure your position. This one is kind of big for me. I think that this is huge. I think a lot of teachers don't realize, they're kind of looking for jobs and they don't have any presence online. Well, if you create a presence online, and it's not like you have to be famous or anything like that, but if you're creating a blog and you're showing that you're active in your presence, then anyone who's looking to hire you can go and take a look at that and go, oh, they're actually out there in the world doing stuff. That is so much more powerful than any simple resume can be. I used to work in the private education sector, and I would hire people, and I'd get these PDFs, and they're just like, okay, who's to come in? Who's next? What am I looking for? And what I always wanted, what I was always looking for, was people who are active, or people who are making their own kind of little spot in the world and showing that out, because that's the age that we live in. That's the reality. If you're a teacher and you're not out there, if you got a secure job, that's great. But for those of us who are still looking, and for those of us who are, maybe changing things up, it's such a great way to make sure that you're going to get your position, what you need in the future. And finally, number 1 is just to have fun. I can't emphasize this enough. You should be blogging just for fun. It's something for you. It's kind of, for a lot of us, it becomes a hobby, and it becomes, something that we really enjoy doing and looking forward to. I kind of think of it as like an adventure, and you just keep looking for new areas to explore. So just like your students who get hooked on reading, you never really want to stop, and you just keep on going. So really make sure that you have fun with your blogging. So that's it. Those are my 10 points. I really hope that they're useful for you, and keep on listening to the House of EdTech. Chris is awesome, and I hope to hear from you guys if you think this is useful too. Thanks so much.
And a super huge thank you to Brent once again for taking time to record his opinion and share 10 awesome reasons why you should start blogging. If you aren't blogging yet, you should really consider it. As you know, I'm kind of on this big kick about creating content as opposed to just curating it. So remember, you have a voice, and if you don't have a blog, why not? Try it out. As much as they say what you put out there on the web is permanent, if you decide you don't like it, there are ways that depending on what platform you choose, you can take down your blog and it can be gone. But at least give it a shot if you haven't tried so already. And that's just that's my EdTech thought. Try it. You might like it. And now for this episode's House of EdTech VIP. Congratulations to Miss Danielle Danny Raskin. Danny is a certified social studies teacher and currently works at Clarkstown High School South in West Nyack, New York, where she teaches in the special education department. Miss Raskin is an avid integrator of technology in her classroom. She is also passionate about growing as an educator and attends conferences on a regular basis to improve herself as a teacher and a person. Now, I had the pleasure of meeting Danny most recently in 2015 in January at EdTech NJ during my Stop Curating and Start Creating session. Danny is hitting the presentation trail herself, and she will be attending and presenting at the upcoming EdNATO conference coming up in April 2015 at Middletown South High School in New Jersey. I suggest you connect with Danny. Her Twitter username is Miss Raskin, and that's MISSRASKIN. Congratulations, Danny. You are the House of EdTech VIP. And that's going to do it for this episode of the House of EdTech, sponsored by Today'sMeet.com. Check out what Today's Meet can add to your classroom at today'smeet.com/houseofedtech.
Brace yourself on Saturday, April 25th at Middletown High School South in Middletown, New Jersey for EdNATO. EdNATO is a free conference and day of learning for all educators. EdNATO will feature a variety of engaging sessions, a makerspace play area, storm centers where you can try the latest in educational technology, prizes, and oh yeah, free breakfast and lunch. Check out ednato.com. That's EDNADO.com for more information. That's EdNATO, April 25th at Middletown High School South in Middletown, New Jersey. EdNATO, taking education by storm.
Big thanks to Chris Aviles for putting that together for me. If you're interested in going to EdNATO coming up here in New Jersey, definitely head over to ednato.com, register, and I hope to see you there. So let's get back to closing out the episode now that I've probably scared you. Everything you've heard in this episode, keep the conversation going. Visit my website, chrisnessy.com. Over on the website, you can review the show notes for this episode, number 31. I would love your thoughts on the apps that I spoke about for the Final Four. as well as anything else that I've commented on and shared my thoughts on. You can leave comments on the show notes, or you can email the show, feedback@chrisnessie.com, and you can also submit audio feedback by calling the House of EdTech listener feedback line at 732-903-4869. And you can connect with me on Voxer. My username is cnessie4602. And of course, hit me up on Twitter. I'm Mr. Nessie, and just use the hashtag House of EdTech, and I'll know that you want to comment and talk about the show. Now, if you enjoyed this show, and I don't know why you wouldn't, it's a fantastic podcast if I do say so myself, please rate and review the show on iTunes. Your 5-star rating and positive review will help keep the House of EdTech front and center for others to discover and enjoy. And a special shout out and thank you to AJ Bianco, who recently left feedback for the show in iTunes. AJ, I appreciate it. Thank you so much. And I hope others will take up the cause as well to get the show pumped and primed in iTunes. Another way you can support the show is through patreon.com. And just head over to patreon.com/houseofedtech. Jeff Herb of Instructional Tech Talk is a patron of the show. Thank you, Jeff, for all your support. I appreciate it. And on the next episode of House of EdTech, I will be sharing a recent conversation with Jennifer Kronk. She's a Google Apps enthusiast and all-around EdTech integrator from New York State. Thank you so much for listening. And remember, using technology isn't difficult. Just give it a try.